Hello there, in this video we're going to check out spacing and grids for our designs, so let's go. Okay, welcome back to the file. So in this video we're going to start by looking at spacing. So let's just scroll down, let's go, click on typography, let's click on the plus, and let's add a page in for spacing. Okay, I'm going to click F on the keyboard for frame, just going to quickly draw out a frame. And similar to other projects that we've done before, I'd quite like to use the 4-point grid, and I think it'll work great for this project. Okay, let me just press T on the keyboard, and I'm just going to put 0 pixels, and that will be our first one. So what we're probably going to do is we're going to go from 0 pixels all the way up to something like 80 pixels. So we've got a nice scale that we can use. And what we'll do is we'll add some variables as well in Figma, so we can use those on our different components and on our different designs. So give me 2 seconds, we'll add the scale on the page and then we'll add those as variables as well. So I'll see you in a bit. Okay, welcome back to the file. So as you can see, we've got a spacing system here. It goes all the way from 0 all the way up to 88. That's a nice scale to use, and I think that should work quite well. If I go into variables, and let me just pull this out a little bit more. Okay, what we probably need to do is create a new collection. So we can create a new collection here and call it spacing. Let's click on create a number, and let's just go in and do the first one. So the first one is going to be 0 pixels, and that'll be the name, and the value is going to be 0. If I was spending a lot of time on this project and it was quite a vast design system, I would probably start referencing other master values here, but for now I'm just going to type the values in for this project. Okay, that's the first one done. Let me go ahead and populate the rest of the values, so give me 2 seconds. Okay, welcome back. So as you can see, our variables panel is now filled with our different spacing variables, all the way from 0 and pushing all the way up to 88. So that's really great, so we can reference those when we're designing. So I'm setting this as a general scale for spacing, so we have some control and consistency. You can get really detailed with spacing, so what gets applied to where, but for this project, for this single screen that we're designing, I think this will be okay. So that's great. Let me close the variables panel. I think in the last video I mentioned working on metrics, but I actually think we should establish a grid that we can use for this project before we kind of move on to metrics. So let me just create a new page, and let's call it grids. Okay, so moving on to the grids page, let's just press F on the keyboard for frame, and let's just use 1440 by 1024, because I think that's what we're going to be designing for, just desktop for the moment. Let's just rename this to grids. Let's go ahead and go down in the panel to layout guide. So let's click on the plus and let's start building out our grids. So first of all, we want to change the drop down to columns. As it's desktop, we're probably going to want not 512, we're going to want 12. We're going to set the type to stretch. Width is set to auto. Margin, let's not make that too big, but let's do 16, and let's use the gutter of 20. That's fine, that should suit our needs. I want to make it really controlled, so let's go into the grids, and let's just go to layout guide again, click on the plus. Okay, I'm just going to click on this option. I'm just going to change this from grid to row, and I'm just going to update this. So we're going to do, let's start off with like 2000 rows. So if you have really tall designs, that should cover us there. Let's change the type to top. Okay, so for the height, because our spacing, let me just go back to that page, is in increments of 4, let's stick to that. So for the grids, oh, I just closed it. Let's go back there. So height, let's do 4, and we'll just 0 out everything else for now. Okay, so let's just close that down. So if we zoom right in, you can see we've got the 12 column grid, which goes across. But we've also got a vertical grid that goes in increments of 4. Okay, so as a test, let's just draw out a frame. Let's just give it a fill, just so we can see it. Okay, that'll do. So it snaps nicely to our 12 column grid, which is good. You can see it snapping there. What's really good is if we're moving it up and down, it's also snapping to the grid as well. To make our life even easier, let me just go up to, let's just go up to help, and let's just type in nudge. So it's under settings, nudge amount. Let's just click on that. So currently the small nudge is 1, the big nudge is 8. Okay, so if I'm moving the arrows on my keyboard up and down and left and right, That's the small nudge, and that's only doing it in increments of 1 pixel. So what I want to do is I want to change that to 4, and I'll leave the big nudge as 8. So when I'm using, let's just snap it to the grid, there we go. So when I'm using the arrows, it's going to jump in increments of 4, up and down, left and right, which is perfect because that snaps to our grid. If I hold shift and now press up and down, it's going to jump in increments of 8. If I do it left and right, that's going to do the same as well. So yeah, this is going to give us a lot of control with our vertical and horizontal alignment, and I think that's really key when we're designing out this dashboard. So let me just delete that. I think we're good to go, so I think that's all set. So yeah, we'll go with this grid for now. I think this is going to be really good for our dashboard. Potentially in the future you could add it to your variables panel as well to get more control. I think if I option click and drag, I imagine if we wanted to do a mobile one, I'm just dragging this roughly, the grid is responsive, so I think it was set to stretch. So if I go into columns, say we change that from 12 to 4, you'd probably be able to create a mobile grid, a tablet grid, and so on using our grid layout that we built. So again, rough estimate for tablet, you'd probably do 8, and yeah, you could scale this grid out quite easily. Okay, we'll delete that for now, and we'll just leave our desktop grid. I'm just going to leave that there. Alright, let's go back up to our overview panel just to check in where we are. Before we start jumping into component design, let's have a look at the key metrics in the next video, and let's map them out to the appropriate area on our dashboard, and also what chart type we're going to use for each key metric. So yeah, that's what we're going to do in the next video.
Okay, that's it for this video. Thanks for getting to the end. So like, subscribe, all the things, and I will see you in the next video. Usually when I find something in the study, you can eat it, and today we can't. Wild cranberry and juniper candles. Whew. Yep, can smell the cranberry. Why have I got candles in here? Like, I don't need candles, I've got lights. I've got a heater and I've got lights. I don't need candles. Let's just put those down. Honestly, turning this office into a spa. Anyway, you got to this point in the video, so keep watching, keep following along. If you've got any questions, put them in the comments, and I will see you next week. See ya.